Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. We had a great time out. Coach come out and spent some time with us at the skills competition. Yeah, had a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
That was cool, man. The kids we were interviewing kids, and we were talking baseball with Coach Perkins. It was a good afternoon to be at the ballpark.
Oh, yeah.
I love that stuff, man. We saw a lot of kids from Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana.
So there were 9 states represented.
Yeah. It was, and there was some good baseball this weekend. We did a 14U game, guys. We had a 1-0 ball game. Went full 7 innings. The pitchers,
good arms,
did their jobs. Saw a lefty that just kind of tied everybody up and did his job. It was a lot of fun. We had one on Thursday. The younger kids had this Adam Pate is his name. I remember Adam Pate. We interviewed him afterwards. 11-year-old. It's 265 to center on the E quad there. Or no, it's 250, excuse me. He jacked it dead center. I mean, 11-year-old, that's a pretty good poke for an 11-year-old. Am I wrong, guys?
No, that's great.
Oh, that's a shot.
I mean, and it cleared it plenty. So it's probably about 260, 265. That's pretty good. We saw some good stuff this weekend. So I really enjoyed the World Series with Game 7. And today we're going back to high school. The summer season is kind of, it depends on where you're at, kind of in the middle of it for a lot of the high school kids, right?
Yeah, it's really starting to wind up, to tell you the truth. In July, most people shut it down. Some teams already shut it down, like this last weekend. Some guys were done. I know some pitchers around, they're shutting down, getting ready for college ball, They're done.
Wow. I thought they would still go maybe another couple weeks. And we're here as we got Kevin Moulder. Kevin from Prep Baseball Report. Always great to have you on the show, man.
Love being here.
And we're going to talk a little bit because this is one of the big events for PBR coming up. One of the big showcases for Missouri talent. You've got the Future Games coming up. And when is that happening, Kevin?
It happens the last week of July. I believe July 27th. We have a workout date, which we put all the guys through a pro-style workout, and then we play 3 games, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, one each day. So right around the corner and one of the highlights of the year for us.
Do the junior Future Games happen in the same weekend?
Same week, yes. They start one day before the big guys, but that's also a really fun event. And, man, it always surprises me. I need to stop being surprised how good some of these young guys are. And, there's some impressive guys and guys we talked about that ended up making big impacts this spring. Thanks to Ty Thompson with Columbia Rockbridge, one of the top shortstops in the state, period, regardless of class. And he was a part of that Junior Future Games team. And, you see some special talent, and it's fun to track these guys. You see them when they're on the 14U team and then through their high school career develop. It's a fun thing to keep an eye on.
So the junior guys are all freshmen, incoming freshmen?
We have 2 sets. We have a set of incoming freshmen, and then we have a set of incoming 8th graders. So a 13U team and a 14U team.
Wow. So how do you get those 13U guys? How are you doing? Where does that come from?
Truthfully, that's my toughest one because it's the guys that I've seen the least. But through events, they'll come to like one of their organization scout days or sign up for one of our open events, and so we take a group down there and basically just an introduction, and it's a pretty cool experience because the Future Games with the older team, it is a slightly different feel than the Junior Future Games team. The Junior Future Games team, we are sold out to win. Like every game is, Game 7 of the World Series. We're trying to beat Ohio or Canada or West Virginia or Florida, whatever. And that is the main purpose. That we're not necessarily doing it from a recruiting mindset, although a number of guys have gotten offers from those events. And then with the older guys, it's a little bit different feel. You're definitely trying to win. You don't show up to a baseball field and not try to win. But there is maybe a bigger picture in mind. We're trying to get these guys exposure. And the young guys, they get a look at. There's over 350 schools at this event. Every SEC program is represented there, so it's impressive how many scouts and coaches are at this thing, and it's the young guys get a little bit of a look at that, and also get to see some of the older guys play, which is a cool thing for them because they're 14. They all think they're the best thing in the world, and then they get to go over and see a Brett Norfleet from a couple years, one of these other guys, and 6'5", 6'6", whatever, and throwing 90 miles per hour, or how they hit and field, etc. And they're like, oh, wait, I still got a lot of work to do.
No doubt. I think it's kind of fun though, because the younger ones, it's more of a tournament format, right, Kev?
Yes, yeah, it's pool play, and then
there's a winner.
It's how you do. So if you go, undefeated in your pool, like Team Missouri did last year, we made the semifinals and lost in extra innings to Texas in a great game. That was a lot of fun. And if you go 0-3 or 1 and whatever, then you're going to be eliminated and not get to play in the bracket play. So it's a big deal to the kids. It's a fun atmosphere, and it's a little different. You get to play. You get to see how you stack up versus kids from Arizona or Colorado or just a different area. And oftentimes by the time we get to the older guys, the guys Coach Perkins is in charge of, a lot of these guys have played together and they'll know each other. But that it's kind of cool to see the guys get to interact from. The Kansas City kids typically know the St. Louis kids, and they've all played against each other, and they can relive their moments from the spring season. And
remember that home run I hit off of you?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is fun. And that's fun with me because when you're down there, if we're not playing over the older guys, I'm following the younger guys around, just watching them, and. Of course, I had some Howe kids on some of those teams, so I get to see them play in a high-level competition. I mean, I had a blast with that. And all of a sudden, you look up and you see a Tony Vitello or you see a Steve Beezer, and they're watching the eighth grade, ninth graders games, and they're recruiting. And that's like he mentioned Ty, and that's where he ended up committing to Tennessee. So it does go on. They're committing earlier and earlier. It's just crazy. The world's nuts.
I think it's interesting, guys, when you're talking about these types of events and you have players at this level. These are kids that do have an opportunity to be recruited on a national level. There's a difference between a national level, a regional level, and then maybe even a state level, correct?
Oh, yeah. I told the kids, anybody that gets invited, I said, man, you will not attend any event that's more attended than this one. And you're going to get coaches from California to Florida. I mean, I'm talking about Florida, Pepperdine and whatever else. They're there. I mean, so you got, Kevin and PBR supply this platform for kids to get in front of so many coaches at one time. It's just such a valuable experience for them. Even if you can just, impress one guy, because when you impress one guy, they all talk, and then you got 8, 9, 10 guys on it.
Right.
Maybe they missed that kid, but now they've heard people talk about that kid, so they're going to pay more attention. And Coach knows that from being in the college scene, how that word travels on the street, and then all of a sudden, you're a hot commodity. And this is the platform for those kinds of kids to get noticed and be on their way to getting committed.
a lot of guys fly off the board after this event. It's a kid has a good day or a good couple days, week, or whatever it is. It's magic. They'll get a load of scholarships, or maybe often like a kid is getting recruited by a couple schools, and maybe it's more regional, and then they go to the future games, and then all of a sudden their offers go from 2 or 3 schools to 12 to 15 because the teams from out that normally don't see these our regional player, our local players are all get a set of eyes on them. So when we're playing Team Louisiana or Team North Carolina or whatever, those schools that typically watch that state are also watching our guys. And Coach knows it. I can't tell you how many times I went to recruit a player and then recruited a different kid just from watching,
no doubt,
showing up to a game when I thought I was going to recruit another kid.
So many times
it happens all the time.
That.
Guys, when you're talking about this too, these younger players that go into the junior games, you hope that your 2024s that are headed there, they have this understanding. But the mental preparation to go out, and you could still go 0 for 4 and still look good,
still
play well, right?
And
those types of
barrels. That's the biggest thing they got to happen. I really like what Kevin said about the 14-year-olds. Think that they're world beaters and they're the best thing on the block, and all of a sudden you show up there and it's like, and how do you deal with that? And that's Bianco's been putting some stuff out there about failure, and that's how coaches want to see how how you act and how you run out a pop fly or how you run out a ground ball or how, is it a hard 90 every time? Those are all valid points, and those are things like Coach is talking about. You're watching, and all of a sudden you see a guy, bust his tail on a little pop fly in short outfield, and he ends up on second base. Now you've impressed somebody.
We were watching. I was watching the Padres and Dodgers. Luke Voigt, Lafayette kid, big, strong. Hits one, and he's watching it. Doesn't run. Pops off the top of the wall back into play, and it's a single.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally, and now I'm not saying anything bad, whatnot. It's professional, but I do believe that a lot of that is filtered into youth baseball, high school baseball, and unless you're playing for a coach, you see a lot of these attitudes. And I wish and I hope that kids, when they go to these things, don't take on those things and take that mentality. Even if you're making millions of dollars, run hard.
Oh yeah.
Do what you do.
You owe that to the fans,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And get back to what Kevin was saying about other people that local people are on the guys. You'll see the Missouris, you'll see Carbondale, you'll see Missouri State, following Missouri guys. But there's been, and because of these events which we're talking about, for example, Victor Quinn. Oregon State did not come to Wentzville, Missouri, to watch Victor Quinn.
Right.
And he ends up at Oregon State.
Right.
And I have a kid at Huntsicker, who's at Central Florida. Central Florida don't need to go anywhere.
Right.
Right. We got all them players down in Florida, but he's an arm and he's still there and he's throwing for them because of these events which we're talking about right here. It is.
And a lot of times, I was going to say, a lot of times, this one of our players, I won't say the kid's name because he ended up not going to this school. They passed. They did not offer him a scholarship, but a lot of times the big academic schools will come. So, Stanford came to watch specifically one of our pitchers on Team Missouri last year throw. So what a cool opportunity because like Coach says, it's going to get tough. It's tough for Stanford to fly in to see the Francis Howell Timberland game in the spring.
No doubt.
But they are likely to make, they're going to be at the future games. So, and like the Ivy League schools will be down there, and sometimes we'll have players, there'll probably be 1 or 2 players, maybe one on Team Missouri that is of that type of kid academically, and we'll get those type of schools in to see our guys too, and that, so it's not only, hey, let's get the big SEC or ACC or Big 12 schools. It's also some of the guys fall in line with a Stanford, an Ivy, or a Rice, some of those special academic schools. So it's a cool thing and a pretty good opportunity for the guys.
Yeah, like Cameron Poe. I mean, academically, he's there, and he's going to Duke.
Yeah.
Duke didn't come out to CBC to see him. It was just,
no, they didn't.
I would like to venture to say it was because of the Futures game. They were probably there and saw him, and then saw his academics, which, as coaches, we always hammer how academics is so important, and it is. I mean, Duke's not going to go after a 1.5 student. They're not going to cut it in that school.
Right.
But if you're a 4.4, now you got a chance, and you're left-handed and throwing 90-something, you're good too.
And that's the thing. You're looking at, I'm getting a kid that he's throwing 90 plus, correct, Cameron Poe?
Cameron, yes.
Yeah. And lefty, and he can hit the requirements of the school. That's a trifecta, right, for a school like Duke.
Yep. And like you said, those coaches.
And Cameron had opportunities, to visit the big boys in the SEC. They were coming off a national championship, and he's as gifted, if not more gifted, in the classroom. And so his options, he was more on the Vandy, Duke, Stanford, that type of list of schools, and that's pretty cool. I always tell, in a recruiting spot, I was talking to Cameron about this, but just other kids in general, you need to go to a school that's the right fit for you. And it's cool when kids find that situation, whether that's, hey, I want to be in close to home. I want to go to the best academic school. I want to go to the school where I'm going to get on the field right away. I want to be halfway across the country. I want to go to the South. Everyone has a little bit different idea of what's right for them. A lot of times it'll be a certain major. Kids will only look at certain schools that, maybe you want to be an architect, maybe you want to be there's a lot of different things that go into this, and it shouldn't just be, hey, who's the school with the biggest name brand recognition or whatever, and sign or commit with that school. It needs to happen for a variety of reasons, and it's nice when kids pick schools for the right reason.
Yeah, well, when Cameron was at Futures game, I was down in the bullpen talking to him a little bit and saying, who's on your list, where you at? And he ripped off all them schools that Kevin just mentioned, and I'm going, okay. I said, what's your GPA? And he told me what that was. I said, all right. There it is.
It made sense.
This is legit. You're the guy that fits that mold, and good luck, buddy. Go get him. And he did, which was great for him, man. I'm happy for him.
Absolutely. I love the fact of this conversation, too, because I hope that kids are watching and paying attention, parents, too, that you understand, Coach, these two gentlemen have been around this game and in this situation for so long. How many of these kids, they'll go and have a great college career, and they'll get a taste of some minor league baseball, but that's it. And so you're coming back into your community, and what are you doing from there, correct?
Yeah, I was talking to a guy on our summer team. I'm coaching collegiate league, and I was asking him what his degree he's going to pursue. He goes, well, I hadn't really thought about that. His goal was that, I'm going to be pitching in the minor leagues. I'm going to make it to the big league someday. I said, well, you need to get your degree and be comfortable with something that you like, because there'll be a day where you're going to have to hang up your cleats, and you're going to have to be a real, contributor to society, and so you can live your life well, because you're going to have to get a job someday, unless you've made hundreds of millions of dollars playing, which is rare, but if that happens, great for you. But most of us, got to get a job and provide for our families, and it's tough.
And even the guys that do make the big leagues, well over half those guys still have to go out and earn a living after they're done playing.
Yeah.
There's very few guys. And even like, let's just look at Ozzie Smith, for example. He's still super active in the community, and, he has all sorts of projects going on. And so it's not like most of these guys don't go live on a beach after they're done playing. They're still going to keep doing things. And
they're going to buy a car lot or buy a restaurant or buy a restaurant / bar.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting story. We were talking about this just over this weekend, so you guys brought this up. I think it's interesting. My brother, he ran a fast food restaurant in John Wayne Airport, Orange County. Okay. Late at night, gentleman walks up to the counter. It's Reggie Jackson. Getting ready to fly out for this. He just started chatting him up, and he said he was really nice, chatted a long time and whatnot. He said, where you headed? I got to go do this for a deal, this, that. He says, oh, still working at it, whatnot. He goes, got to pay the bills. And, because Jackson, of course, in a different era, in the sense, he made some money playing ball, to be sure.
I'm sure he's one of the highest paid at that time. Which isn't a whole lot.
But, and that
compared to now.
And that was what was funny. He says, got to pay the bills. Right. So it isn't always just what I think we think in those respects.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I thought that was an interesting. It just kind of, I understand the difference in time, but there's a lot of guys today that come out of sport. Because what is the average income? Do you know? How many people know what the average income is for Major League Baseball?
Well, not only just baseball players, any collegiate student, they go into college, they think they're going to get out and be making $150,000 a year right out the gate. Not going to happen most of the time. I mean, you got to start at the bottom and work your way up, and maybe someday you will be, but it's rough.
So I think these are all factors, but all right. Now let's talk about some dudes here, Kevin, because I want to look at your roster, Coach. You're going to have some fun, I think, with these young men.
I always do. I don't have to do nothing. Just watch some great players play. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
In all sincerity, it is. I form the roster with input from coaches like Coach Perkins and other members of the PBR staff, but it is. Coach Perkins is the head coach, and it's, couldn't have a better guy. National Coach of the Year honors, multiple state championships, and probably more important to that, he's been through it. He's coached. He's had 4 sons that all played college baseball, so he's been in the parents' shoes, which I also think is a key part of this because, it's one thing to be a good coach and be able to teach a kid how to hit or lay down a bunt or hit and run or field. But then there's also another element to the future games, which I think is the most important part of the coaching part, is getting these kids to calm down a little bit and just understand, it's a big deal, but, you can't have the kids get too sped up, and, they're super wound. They're wound tight at this event because it's a big opportunity for them. And Coach Perkins has been that. He's had 4 boys all get to play college baseball. Nick moved on the pro ball as well, so he kind of can look at it through multiple different lenses, and it's a good resource for our guys to have. But wouldn't you agree, Coach, that that's one of the biggest challenges?
Things have slowed down for me personally, just as I've gotten older. Coach Goff asked me that about 8-9 years ago. When did the game slow down for you? I said, you know what, that's a valid question because it really does happen. It does slow down. But with the kids, I mean, the talent level that we're facing as far as velo from pitchers and stuff, the most of the kids that Coach Moulder has gotten, that's going to be nothing new to them. I mean, they can hit the 90-mile-an-hour fastball. It's just a matter of fact getting out there and doing it, and some of them get uptight, and you can tell the guys are uptight. You just got to mainly just joke around with them, put them at ease, and say, hey man, it's baseball, let's go. I mean, go up there and have some fun, get your hacks in. I mean, you want to bunt, none of them bunt. That usually gets a smile because none of them want to bunt.
Coach, I ain't bunt. Don't give me no bunt sign, Coach. Come on, man.
I don't give any signs. You want to steal? Go ahead to steal, man. You want to impress somebody? Do it. But yeah, and then as the days progress, they know of guys on the team, like Coach was saying, but then they start talking and comparing notes about who beat you in districts or who beat you in the semifinal or who beat you here, and then they start talking again. I remember this game and da-da-da, and I remember, did you face this guy? Did you see this guy and how we did against him? And they start having their conversations, and that's when I like to be the fly on the wall just listening. It's pretty cool.
I was going to say we might have a kid on the team that's going to bunt this year, Coach, but
awesome.
It's Coach Wilson's son, Lucas Wilson.
I know he will.
He's a sweet player.
He's also going to play some defense, too.
Yeah.
Good player.
I like the fact, personally, the mental part of the game, how do you address that? Every one of these kids are talented. That's the biggest thing we know. They're talented people. And I always think when you're looking at evaluating an individual, how do they handle a situation? How do they deal with pressure? I always love the fact, and I do this, I kid people and stuff. I think it's funny. I eat pressure like candy. Bring it. And that's the thing, I've always been in situations where whether it be in a sport or in your professional life, there's pressure for you to perform in a job and things like that. When you've got maybe hundreds of $1,000s, $1 million on the line as a company, and you have to make decisions, that's still a similar type of situation. So I think learning how to deal with those types of things early on in life and understanding where those things go is a huge impact on an individual as they move forward. How do they do that? How is your decision-making process in these situations? Can you slow? And I think that's the great point. I love what you said there, Coach, because it's true. Can you slow it down enough to where your mind is working? I saw it again this weekend. I love to watch these things, and I've always done this. I believe power plus attitude equals a performance. It's an equation that my dad taught me when I was 12. It's an interesting, knowledge is power, but the application of that knowledge in the proper attitude equals what you want as a quality performance. I believe in these things very much. It's an attitude of how I approach everything in life. And these are the things that if we have these young men looking at this situation, how does the body follow the mind? Because no matter what, I heard Jimmy Johnson, they were showing a couple things, and Jimmy Johnson's walking around his Dallas Cowboys players. The body or the mind controls the body, not the body controlling the mind. And what you see when these situations, as you said, when it's sped up, the body is controlling the mind, and that's when failure happens. Mm-hmm. How do you overcome that? Well, you have to slow it down enough to where your mind is in place, in proper attitude, understanding. You have set your body in such physical peak condition that now is your mental focus taking over to where that becomes just the natural outflow of what you're doing. Correct?
Yep, I totally agree. But that's
Absolutely.
What PBR does, and I think that it's great. They prepare these kids for the showcases with your regional or I don't know what you call them, Kevin. I mean, like your area.
Yeah, our state.
Right.
Yeah.
So every one of these kids have gone to at least one.
Yes.
At least one, and probably more than that. And I'm sure you see kids numerous times. Sometimes you probably get one of those camp rats that comes to all of them. And able to afford
right.
that. And can do that. That's fine. But these kids have gone through this kind of a showcase kind of a thing, so that helps them when it comes to the futures game, because it's essentially the same kind of a thing during the skills part of it, which is at the very first, and they're doing the same things that they've already done. I mean, It's just like anything. The more you do it, the better you're going to be at it, that kind of a thing. And a lot of these kids have been through it, and they know, and they'll pick and choose. Like as they get older, catchers will just say, I'm not going to run a 60. There's no need for that. And it's like, you're right, buddy.
You're not going to crack that 7.5. Probably just.
I'm going to save my legs.
Just work on your hitting. I know you can receive and throw, and I just got to hit because you sure can't run.
I love the kid at the top of this. We saw him at Maryville. I brought him up, Mason Benno, shortstop at Parkway West. Watching him play was a lot of fun out there. He can hit too. That kid can rake.
He can hit. I like Mason a lot. And Mason had a huge freshman year for Parkway West the year before. And he also went 6-0 on the mound. Now, this spring, he had a little bit of an arm deal. And he ended up only pitching one inning at the very end of the year. But he's also going to throw an inning for us on the mound. So it's a two-way talent. Middle of the diamond infielder and smooth defender, left-handed bat. And I think he's going to impress in a couple different ways down at the Future Games. So excited to have Mason on the team.
I want to bring up a young man here. I think it's interesting because these aren't kids that we're familiar with, but Caden Durnan, Camdenton, right-handed pitcher. Talk a little bit about him, Kevin.
Yeah, I think I called Coach Perkins about this after the fact. I went out to their district game, and a guy finally beat Coach Perkins on the Sun game in high school baseball, because I remember seeing Coach Perkins batting 3 of his boys in the top 4, and deservingly so, in the state championship. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then I go to Camdenton, and Coach Durnan has a son, a sophomore at third, Caden, his junior son that was a future gamer last year and committed to Wichita State, Cam Durnan at shortstop, and then his youngest son, second baseman, who was a freshman at second base. I'm like, this is incredible. He's got all of his boys on the infield.
That's good stuff.
So Caden is coming, though, as a pitcher. He's a tall, good-looking right-hander that's been up to 89. He's like 6'4" or so. He's got a real chance on the mound, and will be fun to see how he does. And he's getting some decent interest already from four-year schools. And a lot of times you get these guys down here, they'll PR down at the event, and it's nothing that we're saying to them. It's just that they get caught up in the moment and the adrenaline flowing. They'll find that they'll find that first 90 or 91 in their
tick.
Yeah, that's right.
Just a little extra juice, right? Hey, you know what? You see that all the time. Guy gets his first start, man, he's pumping fastballs, and it's like hadn't ever hit 95 in his life, and all of a sudden it's like
yeah, there's that one time in the game where maybe it's 0-2 or 0-1, and it's like, let it go, kid.
Yeah.
This is the one. I don't care if it hits a backstop. Just get that number up there, buddy.
Yeah.
There's a young man here that when I saw his name, I was like, that's cool. Because if you go to our Youth Baseball Midwest, these are the things that are cool to me because of things what we started doing. We started doing our player spotlights, and we talked to the kids, and we had been down to Springfield for the Midwest Mavericks. We did a tour stop with the Midwest Mavericks down there, and they had some kids that we set up player spotlights with. Jeremiah Jones is another kid. If you haven't seen Jeremiah Jones play, I think he's an incoming freshman this year. He's a kid to watch, most definitely. But Cade White from Republic, he was one of our player spotlights, and great kid. Enjoyed talking to him. We also had we did Ben White or Ben Smith, excuse me.
Ben Smith.
Ben Smith. Catholic. Yeah, we did Ben Smith, Cade White, and Jeremiah Jones. Those 3 kids. So those are all player spotlights we have up on our deal. And here's Cade White. These names: Ben Smith, of course, now going to Mizzou. Watching all these kids come up and having a lot of success. We saw them when they were in 8th grade. Talk to them. It's a lot of fun. And this was always the hope that when I started doing youth baseball Midwest is this is what we would see, and we were able to see these kids grow and mature and have success, and it's been a lot of fun. And here's Cade White at Republic now. He's on this team, right-handed pitcher. He's a good kid.
Yeah, upper 80s fastball, and I saw him earlier this summer for the first time, and this is going to be a great opportunity for Cade, like it is all these other kids, but it's especially good for some of the smaller town kids to get on the radar a little bit. It's just the truth of the matter. Sometimes the larger city kids get a little more exposure, and it's going to be Cade's going to be on some radars after this event, in my opinion.
That's key. The small town kids a lot of times don't get the exposure, what he's saying. Now, that being said, if you're good enough, they'll find you. I think Keith Gutton at Missouri State's the best about finding the small town kids. But again, this event, they families have made the sacrifice. They might travel. I know those kids been traveling 4 or 5 hours to attend your event, maybe even more than that. To come to that event, and once they gets on this list, colleges won't even come to this maybe sometime, and they'll just go to that list and offer those guys on that list just because they know they're good players. And sight unseen, that'll happen. But the small town kids whose families make that, sacrifice financially and everything else to get to these, events are doing it because they think or they know their kid's good enough, and then they get the exposure they need to get and maybe will get the goals that they achieved that they wanted to.
It's interesting to your point, Coach, because I was getting ready to say, this Cade White might get the attention the attention of the Mo State because that Springfield Republic is right outside there, and
I'm
that
sure
may be
Keith
the only
knows
thing.
about those guys already.
But and this is what we talked about. But now you have this opportunity for a national exposure,
right.
And so whereas Coach Gutton might have been going, I want that kid staying quiet.
Yeah, he doesn't want the exposure, no doubt.
So I can snap this up. Now these kids are getting that. And I want to ask you, I think this is fair. I love to ask these questions just because I love the conversation of it. I've always heard, and I believe that, if you're good enough, they will find you, right? Today, in the current climate, do you think sometimes kids are getting missed over in some of those smaller ones, even if they're good enough, because there's so much going on like this now at a national level that there's a lot more exposure that way?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that they'll find out. I mean, word gets out on the street. I mean, you're playing somebody and a coach says, hey, we just saw this kid from, X school, and he was throwing 92.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that coach tells another coach, who tells another coach, who tells another coach, and it just passes around, and then people, well, maybe I better go see this dude, especially if it's a local school, like a Missouri school. I mean, if it's a Missouri kid,
yeah,
I mean, they all should be.
I was going to say, I agree with Coach. They might not come to this event, but they've, with social media, like look at Reese Robinette. That's Kennett, Missouri, and half the big league teams saw him this spring. Just with social, like if we put out one tweet on a kid from the middle of nowhere, like the scouts will see it whether they admit it or not.
They're looking.
They'll find you. They will. Now, doesn't mean that all 350 schools that are at the Future Games are going to come see you. But if you're good enough, if you're at a high level, they will certainly find you. Now, if you're more in between, then you might have to go a different route. And when I was at Jeffco for 2 seasons and have a historically strong program, basically filled with those type of kids that come to Jeffco for a year or two and then move on to a bigger school, a bigger 4-year, or get drafted out of there. So they take a little bit different route, maybe because of maybe a lack of exposure, or not as much of exposure, et cetera.
There's a couple kids on here that we got to see, and I'm bringing up kids that I hadn't really seen before until we were out at the event at Maryville with Kevin. But and a couple kids I'm hoping to get on a player spotlight because they were interesting to talk to, and one of them, and I like this kid, Brady Piccarelli. He was real because we got him up during the scrimmage and talking to him, and he's one of those what you would have called in the 70s a free spirit. But he was fun to talk to.
That's great.
He's one of my favorites. Just not potential wise here. He's physical, strong left-handed bat, can run a sub-7 60. So he hit a homer at the St. Louis Top Prospect in his first at bat, and he's already has a decent amount of interest from four-year schools, and it'll be interesting to see if he parlays that in even more interest down at the Future Games. But this is it's an upside left-handed bat from Eureka High School that I'm a big fan of.
Absolutely. I thought it was interesting, and I'm looking at this, Coach, when he said sub-7. Jackson Carter, 6'4". You had Piccarelli at 6'8", and the other young man on here. I got to put my glasses on. Where was he? Hang on, I'm going to find him here. Oh, is Staley kid, Kenton Unruh. I think he was 6'5" or 6'6", something like that.
He's a physical, strong bat too. That's one of the top bats on the ball club as well, Kenton Unruh. There's some really good athletes. In fact, one of the things I'm looking forward to most, talking about Jackson Carter, who is the fastest player in the state, but I'm looking forward, and I don't know if he's on that list yet, but Sebastian Norman, who's one of the few freshmen that was invited, ran a 6.43 twice at an event in June. And I'm looking forward to a heads-up foot race between Jackson Carter and Sebastian Norman.
Let's make it happen.
Oh, that'd be fun.
We can't get a 6'3" something out of one of those boys. So
that'd be cool.
You got to videotape that for me, Kevin.
We'll have it on video.
I love that. The other young man, it was interesting. We started talking about him. I love seeing this. I know his dad. I got to know his dad because of Zumwalt East games. But Eric Williams, I was glad to see his name on this. I watched him through this season. Just great family, nice people, and big bat.
This is going to be a really important event for Eric Williams. I'm going to fully admit I did not know who Eric Williams was before this spring, and first noticed him when we were covering our game of the week in the middle of the year, and then we did it. Came back, and he had a really nice game out at Lindenwood one night, and we got to interview him in the post game, and then he came to 2 events this summer, and of course saw him at the state tournament. I'm like, this fella can hit. So he's going to be a fun one, and this is a kid that a lot of colleges haven't seen. So this is going to be it's going to be a big opportunity for Eric, and I think he's going to get a chance to open some eyes here at the end of the month.
And that's something I think is great about this, and what we talked about. Here's a young man who, is getting his first opportunity to really showcase what he can do, and it's going to give him those places maybe that he hadn't thought of before. And I think that's what's important about some of these things for these young athletes. So,
no doubt,
Coach, you got some dudes here.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I think so.
I'm always excited.
Kevin, do you have a few more names that you guys are? I know if you don't want to say them, that's fine. But you got a few more names that you.
Well, yeah, I mentioned him earlier. Lucas Wilson from Staley, and that's Coach Dave Wilson, who's been on the program. His son is a really nice player, kind of a classic throwback Coach Perkins type player, my type, everyone's type player. Hard-nosed middle infielder. They can drive the ball too, but then also has a short game, can bunt for hits, steal, and high-energy guy. So I'm excited about him. Let's see here. Xander Schmidt, catcher from Lafayette. He kind of a Jason Kendall type catcher. He's a plus runner. He runs a 6'6" too. So can rare mix there as a catcher. St. Charles boy Brody Short, left-handed bat. Chase Lassiter, left-handed bat out of Wentzfeld that hit over 400 as a sophomore. We interviewed him, Brian. A couple of the top pitchers that I'm excited about. John Paul Sauer, who is Jackson's ace, who's had a really nice season and beat CBC at the beginning of the year, back when CBC was really rolling. And then Brady Kellenbrink, lefty from Parkway South, that already has some Power 5 offers. And, that's not all of them, but those are some guys right there that, are going to be fun to keep an eye on during the event.
There's another name. We talked to him. Hope to get him on a player spotlight. I really enjoyed talking to Brady Kellenbrink. Nice young man. We got a chance to talk to him, get a little bit out there at Maryville. That's the great thing, and I appreciate Kevin. He lets us come out there and stick our cameras around and whatnot. So, and lets me talk to the fellas, and it's fun because I think the more exposure that these young men, get to some of those things, I think it's easier for them to deal with what is to come, because that will always stay there with sport, and especially at the college level, right, with these bigger programs.
Yeah.
So, guys, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We got. You have any more names that are coming on the list?
We'll probably have a couple more names waiting on the last couple to confirm that they're coming, and occasionally one will have to drop out due to injury, or the other secret sauce of this event is every player that is there is uncommitted. So that's one of the reasons the colleges love it so much, is they see a kid, they can go recruit him.
This happened last year with Jake McCutcheon. I mean, he was selected to be on this team, and the week before, he calls me up and says, "I'm committing to Missouri State," and I said, well, "Can't you wait a week just to go to this event?" And he said, "Coach, this is what I've wanted. This is good for me. This is the place I want to go. If the offer's there, I'm going to commit." I said, "Congratulations, man!" But that's a personal experience. This happened just last year.
That's right.
Yeah,
and that's where we kind of talk about, like, we're trying to win the games, but it's not an all-cost things. Like obviously the most important thing is Jake got a scholarship in the school he wanted to go to, so he's doing it. And then another kid got an opportunity because of that, and that is at the end of the day the purpose of this event is we're trying to create opportunities for the kids, and we're also going to try to win along the way. But anytime a kid gets a scholarship, then that's a big time victory, in my eyes.
Check that off.
That's right.
Go to the next guy.
Yeah.
Sweet. Guys, thanks for coming on. Hey, we'll bring them back. We'll bring you back. Come back and see us next week, Coach. We'll keep talking baseball.
Okay.
All right. Kevin, as always, come back. We'll see him next week. Hopefully we'll get Matt Shadow back in here sometime or another, but he's out. He's tripping down.
He's just on the road for the whole summer, isn't he?
Yeah. They're down. I think their first game down there at that PBR event. No, yes, I believe it is. No, this is the WWBA they're in. Sorry, Kevin. No.
Okay.
Not cross.
That's fine.
Yeah, they're down there for that one. So, and I think the following one is the last one. They're going back to Lake Point for that. So they still got a couple more.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff going on. Great stuff, guys. Thanks as always. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the dinger. That gets your notifications, because that's what you want. You want to hit a dinger, right, Coach?
That's right.
There you go. And also, everybody, have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and you hitters, hit them where they ain't. That's old school stuff.
You got that right.
There you go. We'll see you next time.